morning. This is Joe Scarice at Work Your Money podcast, collaboration that I do here down in the Philadelphia market with Michelle Wong, who is not here this morning. A couple of things happened. She'll be later on in the interviews here at, we work in Northern Liberties at the Piazza in Northern Philadelphia. And my guest is Chris Hvostal from Keller Williams in Center City, a very active real estate agent, part of the Mickey Pasquarello team. And we're going to discuss a little bit about 2017 and a little about where Chris sees some of the opportunities that were had in this past year and rolling into 2018 where he thinks maybe some of the market will be going toward, whether it's still new construction or renovation or flip or cash flow. And I think Chris would be able to give a very well-rounded idea of where this market is going because he's on the street. He's trying to earn his business every day, and he's part of a team, so there's a higher demand of follow-up and follow-through with the clients, where some of the other people get more inbound business. Chris has to earn every one of his clients at this point, building a reputation for himself. So Chris, why don't you give a nice introduction about yourself and where you are and things of that nature.
Thanks, Joe. So once again, my name is Chris Hvostal from Keller Williams Realty in Center City. I've actually considered a little bit on the newer side of it being an agent, just under 2 years, but did very well. Basically worked 8 days a week and kicked off my business. Working mostly in the Center City and Fishtown and South Philly and just all the 191 area codes. But also then not only working with the regular residential folks, but also with the investors. So kind of getting my feet wet with the investment model on where growth is happening, where people are expanding out to, where people are taking risks, and where people are also getting burned. And then that makes me a better advisor for the regular folks who are just looking to live in a regular house. And I can kind of be that person on the ground that says, this is an area that people are jamming money into, so we're going to see the values really continue to rise here. So this is a good time, even though the prices are at their highest point now, that we still feel comfortable with where they're going. So it's in a short time, it's made me that advisor to people, which has been nice, helping folks, get to where they need to be.
You brought up a couple good points that I will highlight with some questions, hopefully a little Q&A to it. One, you referenced North Philadelphia, you referenced South Philadelphia. In the past, we say 2 years, people have gone away from zip code and have gone toward the neighborhood designation. What neighborhood? Because you could have 5 or 6 neighborhoods in that zip code, and it's a difference maker on price point, demographics, breakdown, community, convenience, taxes, whether it's new construction or renovation properties. Where do you see that zip code being so much of a diverse price point for a potential buyer, potential flipper, potential cash flow player, somebody trying to buy properties to hold for cash flow? Where do you see the most diverse zip code, aka neighborhoods that are designated?
That's a real question right there. So I think I can think of 2 immediately off the top of my head. One where I'm actually investing in right now is 19122, which I'm going to call Old Kensington, South Kensington. Just west of Fishtown, which Fishtown, as it's expanding and really getting dense with its construction and rehabs, it's going to continue to expand out. I think it's going to cross Front Street. You're already seeing it happen, and I'm hoping it's continuing because that's where I'm at right now. And I think there's going to be opportunities as it expands up into that area and a little bit further out west. How far out west? I'm not really sure where it will end or if there's a borderline, but 19122 encompasses quite a bit, and I think that's a great zip code / neighborhood to think about. And the other one off the top of my head is 19145, which is a South Philly zip code, which encompasses a lot of what we would call Girard Estates and West Passyunk, and I think honestly even a few not really labeled neighborhoods yet, which people just generically call South Philly. And I think over the next year or two, I'm betting we'll start to see neighborhood designations as people try to put something there to say like, hey, this is a neighborhood now, so that they can start investing in it.
So let's break down first the L train and Old Kensington area first. I read some really good information about the stops along the L. And the minute they changed the 2-hour designation parking, where Berks is now the area where you don't have 2-hour designation, there was an increase in attendance through that station of 200%
Sure.
in the past year. So you already see investors or buyers looking at Dauphin. The 5 or 10 year plan is Somerset. Okay, which is
I know Somerset.
You're right near the NKCDC new building and community center and beautiful development, but it stands out because it's amongst a lot of worn properties or lots and things of that nature. Old Kensington to me is still around the Burke station. Am I correct?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
That's my idea of what I would consider Old Kensington as well, as around Berks. What's that for Berks? Is it
Dolphin.
That's York Dolphin, and then you got finally Huntington. But if you Berks west of Front Street is where immediately, I mean, front's their border, so it's 19122, 19125. Right over there is Fishtown, one's Kensington. But immediately that's going to be Old Kensington. The closer you are to Girard, that's where you're really starting to see a lot of stuff get developed and happen. And so I'm on 3rd Street above Cecil B. That's in the 1700 block, but one block below that, new construction all over 3rd Street, all the way up just below Cecil B. Cecil B itself has a whole row of new construction, and there's an entire lot at 5th and Cecil B that I think is slated for about 30 new homes. And that area is, I mean, 10 years ago, if you told someone there would be $450,000 houses going there, they'd all told you you're out of your mind, because people were buying homes for $20,000 and they weren't willing to walk the streets. And the area is, I think there's opportunity and growth all in that area.
And I'm going to jump over to South Philadelphia because, well, one, I'm very familiar, obviously, with the old Kensington area. I'm building in East Kensington and renovating home, putting up a home that's newly renovated. It's going to be hitting the market in a week or two, and the price point, you would just be amazed. It's 3.2. Back patio porch, everything redone. I'm listing it for $319. Now I don't think I'm going to get $319, but I think I'm going to get an offer at $305.
Sure.
So, and again, I'm a transactional real estate professional such as Chris. I'm a loan officer for a bank. I do a lot of residential and commercial lending, but I like to be transactional because I like to be abreast of what's going on in the market. And leading over to South Philadelphia, which I found interesting, you referenced the zip code. I'm building as well and listing a property in new construction in Whitman, which is really a new designated name because you pretty much ran out of room in Pennsport, which has been 4 blocks of play almost all the way to Oregon, all the way back to Washington.
If I'm not mistaken, you're talking about your 6 in Whitman place?
Correct. What do you think about it? Nice, unique?
I think there's opportunity down there as well.
Yeah, we're going to be building on Cottrell as well. But I think there's an area like Lomo, okay, and I think Whitman are 2 areas that could flourish real well because the push above Pennsport, you can't really afford to buy that home that you like, and you can pick up a 3.2 or 3.5 for the finished basement now in the Whitman section, probably price point under $349, brand new.
I'll tell you, I think it's going to go way higher than that. And here's why. So we have one pending right now that I sold for a developer, 524 McKean.
We went to the open house on the last rehab tour.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was told that by the agent who was one of my agents.
We
was
only
running
came
it.
with like 50 people.
Right. But so that's a rehab, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's maybe like 1,200, 1,300 square feet if you count the basement.
But it flows very well.
It was, don't get me wrong, very well done. But that's a 2-story rehab, $317,500.
And we ran the numbers, and it was a perfect stacking. They bought it for X, they rented for X, renovated for X, and the completed value was on point on all 3 numbers. And a lot of people come to me, and I'm sure you're in company of that often, when people say, "Hey, I got this great deal. I don't want to hear the story. Just give me the 3 numbers." And if the 3 numbers don't work, you're going to run into some problems.
It's all a numbers game, and that's what that's why a lot of agents tend to gravitate towards investment because they're not comfortable with the emotions of regular house buying, and investment's a numbers game. It's all it is. If numbers work, the deal happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't happen. It's really as simple as that. And that deal was a great one. That one was from a wholesaler who picked up the property. We bought it for $84,000. They put, I think in the end, they ended up putting about $110,000 into it, but then we sold it for $317,500. It was almost $100,000.
There's some carrying costs in there, but the margin's still there. It's a nice single double.
It was really good. It was a really good one. That being said, a two-story rehab at 317.5. I mean, last year new construction three stories were selling at 349.
Well, let's go along Oregon and talk about that a little bit. You go on the other side of Broad, and you go into the South Philly, true South Philly.
True South
Melrose
Philly.
Diner and all those rehabbed two-story, some light three-story there. I think there's a lot of potential going up along there because you're really close to getting into University City if you're a student and or employee of the schools. So I really do see there's going to be some new designations and collaborations up in that side. I do agree with that. I think the pass junks are getting too tight now on the market. If something's priced correctly, it goes on the market. It's sold in a day, or it's pre-sold even before it hits the market. So I think those areas are kind of like dry on deals, where you could still thus go kind of to the left or the right and still work your three numbers, and there's some potential. But I think there's more potential really back on the North Philadelphia side, just because it's such. I mean, nobody went past Callahill 25 years ago unless they were going into North Philly. I mean, right now the threshold in North Philly is Allegheny.
Right.
I mean, so look how much of a threshold in 20 years where the old city people and Center City people wouldn't cross. Where I mean, they just opened up the brewery. That was the old designated maternity destination yards.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to just go up there and open up the vat and dive in and swim. You know what I mean? They're beautiful.
It's
the
gorgeous. They did a great job.
Gorgeous. Grand opening was this past week. There's nobody in Philadelphia that would have predicted that being on Spring Garden.
Yep.
Okay, and they took almost the entire area where Destination Maternity left to go to South Jersey. So think about that. And then Silk's been there as a mainstay for the last. That was the only restaurant that was there on Spring Garden that was on the north side where people would venture to have a cool meal.
Yep.
Now you got a lot of cool places that are over there. So I think you're going to see a lot of push. I mean, my sweet spot, which I think is Allegheny. Not Allegheny, I'm sorry. Lehigh,
okay.
To Kensington, to Richmond Street, up to Castor. That area right there along the Aramingo corridor, 3 blocks in, you see Bait and Switch opening up on Somerset. The only other thing that was famous on Somerset for the last 30 years was Staccanelli's. You got a seafood restaurant basically on the border of Kensington, Port Richmond. And the people that eat there don't live exactly in that area. So they're coming in. So let's be honest, over the next 24 months, that corridor is going to really ramp up, and the people that are eating there are going to be living there. And I think that's going to be based upon the pressure you're going to get from the developments along the waterfront, which 10 are already announced. They already repurposed where the Foxwoods Casino is going to be into a complete mixed use right on the water, bordering all that. So I think you're going to see a general push, I think, in that box. And I think that's an area where maybe you want to see that next rehab flip that you're doing up on
North 3rd.
North 3rd, of course. So I'm completely in agreement with you. And then let's talk about a little bit about who you work with, your team that you work under with Mickey Pasquale. And I can remember Mickey when I first came down here. How has that impacted your first 24 months in the business?
A little bit of background, just real quick on me, is that I actually used to be a graphic designer working in a print shop for about 14 years. Not the same one, but last one was about 7 years. And never really happy doing it, but I got stuck because in 2008, the place I was working went out of business, and I was living in Philly, so I came to work in Philly when I was in Trenton before, and landed there and was there. After year 6, I was actually offered partnership in the business, and I answered them by getting my license and quitting. I was in BNI. I knew Mickey. He was the realtor of the group, and met him, interviewed. They told me to get my license. I quit and got it. And I wouldn't have joined anyone else just because I in the position of my life, I needed someone to just kind of get behind and be like, I need to learn from someone. I can't jump in and have nothing coming in. Nothing.
A mentorship.
I needed that mentorship. But I wasn't foolish enough to just jump into anything. I also did my research on Keller Williams, who I'm with. And it's a really impressive thing to go online and see, not only they're a great brokerage to work for, but they're also being named the #1 training company in the country. Not even just for real estate, but the #1 training company. And that made me feel like I was in a good spot going with Keller Williams under someone I knew, onto a team and looking over like how things work, and I'm like, this is something I can make happen and make happen. And I'm actually the lead agent on the team now, and have 3 agents that work under me. And the Keller Williams model, honestly, it could be a little. There's very simple to say. There's a culture to it. Keller Williams offers a culture to the business, which makes all the other Keller Williams agents kind of feel like they're actually part of a whole team, which is really not what I hear about a lot of other brokerages. And I'm not going to name any, but just from other agents where they come from, what we hear, what it's like in these other agencies. We've had people leave and go to this other agency and then come back and be like, I thought it was going to be the same, and it was not. I mean, for instance, I'm off the family reunion in February, the big to do, for Keller Williams. I've been to Mega Camp down in Austin, and they just you get to have Gary Keller himself stand up and tell you about the market and where they see it going and what they're doing to stay ahead of it, and I don't know, it's a great company, and I really like being a part of it.
Some people need that support.
Yep.
Some people want to have that feel of a certain type of structure. It might be there, it might not be there. In their mind, though, they need this, line of security blanket, in a sense. But, for me, I think right now in Philadelphia, as long as you brand yourself correctly, a lot of the clients that are out there, if they're comfortable with you and your brand, and you're findable, you're available online, everything pops correctly, I think sometimes they don't even hear what the name of the office is, which is 100%. Nice once you get a confidence level. You're now going into the junior year of your business, and when you sit down with somebody, they maybe ask you who you work with, what agency, flag, or what company, after they have a very robust conversation with you. So it's kind of in the beginning you had to sell the name to sell yourself, where then on the back end it becomes more of a brand for yourself.
And I 100% agree with that. The one thing I think that the mistake that a lot of agents make is trying to rely on a brand too much. And I tell my agents this who I train is they're not buying into Keller Williams, they're not buying into the Mickey Pasquarelli Group, they're buying into you. And if they can't buy into you, then they're not going to work with you.
Doesn't matter what company.
Doesn't matter what company you're with. Yeah. That's what it does come in the end. But definitely even Keller Williams kind of trains you to what they call a lore, language of real estate, to say, well, here, use our brokerage. This is the transaction. This is how quickly our brokerage as a whole gets things done. Use those statistics to get yourself. But after that, once you have that confidence, you've been an experienced agent, you've done a few transactions, they need to buy into you. When someone walks into an open house, they don't look at the sign. They see for sale. That's it. They walk in. Now they're meeting you. That's it.
That's a conversion.
Now it's the conversion, and you're 100% right in that regard. That agents need to brand themselves and be confident in themselves, and because in the end, that name behind them isn't going to carry them the whole way.
And one last thing, I'll give an example before we make sure we got your contact information to the people that are listening in. I've obviously been part of the Mortgage Meltdown. I've been part of the good years before that. Almost like the Big Short or the Great Short, the movie where everybody's driving around and Lamborghinis. And I didn't do a Lamborghini, but I had my hoopty, and then you had the aftermath, 2009 forward, and then you had another reshift with the market as we look at it today. And since I've been down here, banks get bought. I mean, I go there, I give it a lot of value, and then somebody decides to buy it. There's nothing I can do. But one thing I've done was, when people see me, they know I'm the mortgage specialist. Mm-hmm. They come to me because I can put together a plan for their mortgages. They don't get caught up with the name anymore. You get a couple fooleries that'll say, hey, which bank are you at now? I'm like, you're just not really, we're not going to do business together anyway, and that's okay. So that's just a defense mechanism for them, but they know I do mortgages. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what matters, sure. And for you, your brand is you're a real estate agent that can fulfill their needs, short-term, long-term, a relationship. So how do we reach you, and what's the best way to, different contacts to get in touch with you, to potentially have a one-on-one, see what kind of opportunities could be working for you, and who's that client, etc. So how do we reach out to you?
Well, my name, like I said, my name again is Chris Hvostal, but I'll spell the last name because HV as in Victor, OSTAL. I'm easy enough to find that way, but also 267-825-1192 is the cell. Really even simpler than that, Chris at themickey.group.com.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming out this morning. I'm sure you got a busy day with clients and different assignments and projects you have for yourself. And obviously, we became associates, and I would consider a business friend through the networking events that we've held together. And now we collaborate on one in South Philadelphia.
That's
It's
right.
a lot of fun. And our focus is obviously providing education with the concept of obviously that little slight capitalist factor that we like to get business from it.
That's the way it works.
Exactly. So I'd like to thank Chris, and I'd like to thank you for checking in. This is Joe Sprees from Work Your Money podcast, and we'll have a couple other guests coming on board in the next few minutes. Thank you, and have a great morning.